Gorgeous. So appreciate you tuning in today to the podcast that empowers women for financial independence and business success. And if you're brand new to this podcast, then a sincere welcome. I appreciate you being here. This week's podcast is part 2 from the question of last week's podcast from one of our ladies, Lindy. At what point would you decide just to quit your job, career, or business? It's draining my soul, but at least it's money, which is the only reason I stay, she says. I need to bite the bullet and quit. I have only a little bit of money saved, just enough to get me through the month. Is this being irresponsible? Hoping that something will come along. Please, today you are absolutely going to need your journal because I am going to delve in and give you some amazing strategies and concepts to think about before you quit. The Gday Gorgeous podcast is where you're going to get real, raw, relatable answers and solutions and formulas that can help you overcome life's frustrations and live a life that you truly love every single day, no matter who you are or your background. I'm Amanda Jane Clarkson. I'm a best-selling author, an inspirational speaker, an entrepreneur, a certified DiMartini method facilitator, and a world-leading financial independence and business mastery coach for women who would love to release the multimillionaires within. And to find out how I can help you gain clarity, inspiration, certainty, and design and actually live the life that you dream about, pop over to my website, gdaygorgeous.com, or click the link in the notes below. Now, be sure to have your journal and a nice cuppa ready because today I am going to have you writing so many notes that will absolutely help you decide when the right time is to go quit that job if that's what you want to do. Let's jump into it. I am excited. Good morning, gorgeous butterflies. Part 2 and the final part of when is it a good time to quit your job. So I'm just going to quickly recap on the first podcast that I spoke about last week. And this question was from one of you butterflies, Lindy. At what point would you decide to quit your job, your career, or your business if you really don't love it? It drains the soul, but at least it is money. And Lindy didn't have a lot of money in the bank or a cushion to last more than 1 month. And last week we started to go through the Live Now formula of everything that you must consider before you take action and quit your job, career, or business, so that you just don't take yourself and an old attitude into something new, or to really make it hard to attract what that perfect role for you is. And last week we covered the love and let go, learning to appreciate what you already have so that you have more to appreciate. Then we wrote down all the ways that and the benefits that your current role is helping you fulfill your highest 3 values. I won't go right through that again. And then we went into the letter I for Live Now, the what you want and why you want it. And we went through a whole list of questions that I hope you wrote down. And if you are new to this podcast and you're listening from the outside, welcome. It is definitely worth listening to the very first podcast from last week about this particular subject, because I gave you a lot of strategies and questions to think about and really decide on before you take action that may not be in your highest interest. Then we wrote down all the reasons why you want to make the change and how that would affect the 7 areas of your life. Then we talked about the V in the word live for visualizing what your new job or career or business would look like, all the things that you would benefit from that. We wrote down lots of questions. And today now, for this final part, I want to move into the letter E in the word live, which is empower your body, your mind, and your soul. And to land that job that you really want. Now, I look at it like a vocation can mean your job, your career, or your business. And some of you will be looking for status. Some of you will be looking for financial independence, financial freedom. Some of you will want fulfillment. The question is, to land that specific job or career that you want, what knowledge do you not currently have that would enhance your ability to be able to land that particular role? Because this is the thing, a lot of people, no one in this group, of course, I'm talking to, but they want more money, more status, more fulfillment, more freedom, and yet what they don't consider is the knowledge that they need to empower themselves in all different ways. And I'm going to go through some of these ways now to help them land that or become more attractive. Write this down, to become more attractive within the marketplace to help you. So here's a couple of questions now, ladies. I hope you've got your journal, because you want to turn to a page of inspiration here to write down some of these questions. And you might not be thinking about a new job or career right now or business, but in the future, if you wanted to ever jump into your business, these are some of the very important things, distinctions that I would absolutely consider before I took that action. And with my experience of 33 jobs, 14 different businesses, I see that every one of those jobs now, as much as I didn't like them at the time, were on the way to where I am now, not in the way. And we've spoken about that, not to see your job or career as in the way, but on the way, and how it's benefiting you towards your highest values and fulfilling your meaningful purpose on this plane. So is your personal health, well-being, and your presence or appearance to the market standard? Now, some people are not going to like what they hear on this podcast, and I'm okay with that, because as you know, I'm that sort of mentor who says the truth, says it as it is, because I think that serves you more as well, and no one's got time to waste. And so thinking about where you see yourself in that certain job role or that vocation, we'll just call it vocation because it covers the three. Are you the person that would fit that space? And so you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself these questions. Am I up to standard in my knowledge, in my appearance, in who I have become to be able to be in that role that I truly, truly want? Do I have the vitality and the stamina and the inspiration and enthusiasm required? Now, from my experience, I've employed dozens of people throughout the 14 different businesses. And I used to be an employee, so I can speak here from experience and certainty that sometimes even I would think, well, it's up to my boss to give me the understanding for my role. It's up to my boss to train me in the job role required. It's up to other people. But notice my language was always having an expectation on other people instead of putting the expectation on myself. And so when I realized that, I thought to myself, well, what can I learn in my own time? What can I study? What course can I do? And I'd start to put myself into night school. I went to business school at night after a job I'd finished all day long. I'd work for 8 hours a day. I'd go to night school to learn business. I did it for years. Even when I was at my brokest point in my life, I still made the time and found the money to educate myself. And so this is the question that I would ask myself if you were listening to this podcast. Put yourself in my shoes and ask yourself, where do you see yourself in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years from now? What would you love to be doing with the rest of your life? And are you inspired to self-educate so that you can land that job? You can turn up with newfound knowledge. Do the work before you go for the interview. Do the work before you start your business. Do the work before you hope to enhance your role within the current job that you have. And take that responsibility, because I believe that self-education is the most empowering thing that you can do for yourself. Knowledge is power put into action, or power, I should say, is knowledge put into action. So ask yourself, am I inspired and am I enthusiastic, or just going out there hoping for the best to turn up and expecting somebody else to motivate you? That's without, instead of being inspired from within to serve other people. So I thought that was a really great question. And here's another thing to consider. Whatever vocation you would love to see yourself doing, what would be required of you? What will you need to read, enroll in, and practice till it's perfect before you even get there? And I remember years ago when I wanted to become a presenter or a speaker, a seminar presenter, I was so frightened that I would literally feel sick. I couldn't even control my body. I had to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes. I felt like I was going to wet my pants. So I was so scared of standing up in front of a room full of people to share the knowledge that I wanted to share. And I needed to ask myself these questions. I thought, well, am I going to spend the rest of my life in fear, running away, letting emotion take over my body and my mind, or am I going to practice and get over that and stop thinking about myself instead of thinking about the people in the crowd wanting the inspiration that I had to share? And so these are the things that I did. I enrolled with mentors. I practiced stage presentations to anyone who would listen. Even the cat and the dog would get a seminar each and every morning in the gym while I was working out. I read every single day. So for me in this role as a mentor, in financial independence and business mastery and life mastery, I literally practice, read, research at least 5 hours a day. Now, I'm not saying that just because I do that, you should do that. There's no judgment here. But if you're listening to this, put yourself in this position and ask yourself, am I showing up and giving myself the very best opportunity to be that person that people seek out? Am I practicing what my vision is? Am I practicing the role that I want to play? Am I enrolling in courses? Am I enrolling in mentors? Am I reading the books that will help me get there? So many people I speak to want to become financially independent. Put your hand up if that's you. Ladies, give me a love heart if you want to become financially independent, financially free, where your assets give you so much income you never need to get out of bed and work for them again. So you spend the first part of your life through business and serving others, saving and investing, so that eventually the assets pay for the life that you want. Here come the love hearts. And yet, if I ask people, and if you're listening to this podcast and you're new, ask yourself, if you want to become financially independent or free, how many books on wealth do you study? How many courses have you done on financial mastery? What do you know about money? Do you save it? Do you spend it? Do you appreciate it? Do you attract it easily? Or is it something that makes you feel squirmy inside? There's so many things to consider. So whatever it is in your life you want to master, the question is, how much time do you spend investing in that education, learning and practicing? Now, I hope this is all making sense, and I hope you're taking copious amounts of notes, because, oh my God, my life would be so different now. I think I would have gotten there a lot faster to the position I wanted to be in had I have had mentors and coaches who taught me about these things. I bumbled through 33 jobs, wondering why I was distressed, why I was angry, why I hated all of them. And in fact, never once did I look at myself in the mirror and ask myself, what do I need to know? How can I take responsibility? Until, maybe 15 jobs in, and I finally clicked and went, maybe I need to go to night school and learn something I don't know. Give up the television, give up my friends, give up the partying, and invest in myself instead. So lots to think about. The next thing I would ask you is then, all these stuff that I've just spoken about, how is it going to impact the 7 areas of your life? Now, thinking of the drawbacks and the benefits of that in your love life, your health, relationships, money, happiness, your personal growth, obviously your vocation, because that's what we're talking about today, and growth opportunities. How is it going to affect you? Because with every action, there is always a spillover that it's going to affect your life in other ways. So if you self-educated, you learned something new, you really started to take that responsibility and worked on yourself before you jumped out of your current job or career or business, how would it affect your relationships, your health? Would you start to feel better about yourself? Would you start to feel more empowered? Would you start to attract different people into your life? Would you have better opportunities coming your way? Is there an opportunity to make more money so that you can invest more money to become financially independent or financially free in time? Also, I talk about the drawbacks of that. So the drawbacks of all that could be, well, you're going to maybe have less time with your children, less time with your family, might have to give up a few things. And so I always try and weigh out the drawbacks and the benefits so that I don't get too emotional. Now, what I just said there is pure gold. I hope you wrote that down. You can probably hear horns in the background. Sorry about that. Someone's in their boat tooting their horn. I'm in a marina, in case you can't see, in the beautiful Mooloolaba Marina. For people who are new to this podcast and just jumped on, we are up here and I'm sitting on the top deck of our boat, Live Now, recording this podcast, and there's a boat beside us tooting his horn for whatever reason. Timing, I tell you. Okay, let's move on. Here's another question I would ask before you considered jumping out of your current vocation. People have this fantasy or this desire, and I know that I was one of them because I had 33 different jobs and 14 different businesses, so I'm speaking for myself here. Are you committed to living up to what you see in your mind's eye? So for instance, I remember when I always wanted to have more money, I wanted more status, and I definitely wanted more freedom. I wanted to become a multi-millionairess since I was a child. I didn't understand what it was back then, but over the time, that desire never went away. I wanted to become free, and becoming a multi-millionairess in my mind meant for me that I could do the work that I love to do. I could do the charities that I wanted to do and help other people, but it set me up for a life of freedom so that I could be anywhere, anytime, doing the things I love. And the question is, was I committed? And so you've got to ask yourself that question. Is it a fantasy, or am I truly committed? Am I doing the doing? Because so many people talk about it, but really, as the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. And that's a question that is worth asking yourself. Am I committed to my future? And I always used to say to myself, Amanda, it is worth giving up a little bit now to have more in the future. But, as I said, I'm not saying anything's right or wrong. It's what's right for you. But, people say that they want this, that, and the other. But I just look at the actions, because the actions speak volumes. And so you need to become committed if you want a brighter future. What do you need to change specifically about yourself, and are you prepared to do it? Now, I know that some people are not prepared, and that's okay. So I would say be very mindful before you quit your current job or vocation, before you jump into the next one, if you're not prepared to work on yourself. And I think the great Jim Rohn, who was one of my master mentors, said, people, if you work harder on yourself than you do your job, career, or business, the rewards are endless. You can make a fortune through self-education, but through just normal education through school, you can land the job or the career. And I always remembered, it was something like that. He said that I would rather spend the time working on myself, because I didn't want to earn just a wage. I didn't want that lid on my earning capacity. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're in a job role or an intrapreneur, I call it. And again, I'll use my beautiful sister, who I know is listening to this podcast today. She is an intrapreneur, which means she works within my company, but there is no lid on her income capacity. So you've got to think about this. If you're in a job or a job or a career that you have a lid on your income capacity, the next question is, how can you raise that lid? Ask yourself, how can I become more valuable to the marketplace, more attractive to the marketplace, so that I can lift that lid on my income capacity? Because the last thing you want, you will never become financially independent or free or master the business of life or income if you have that lid on that income capacity and do nothing about it. Because with inflation, inflation's going to rise, but if your wage doesn't rise to match inflation, then you're going to start going backwards. So I know I'm speaking a dozen miles an hour here. I hope this is making sense. Girls, give me a signal here if you are getting value, you're writing down some notes, and it's really making you think about the possibility of what you have inside of you rather than looking to the next vocation and leaving it in somebody else's hands. You want to take the very best of you to the marketplace, not your need. Now, I think another mentor of mine, I think it could be Jim Rohn, says, don't take your need to the market, take your seed, meaning your power, your empowered self. So moving forward then, here's another fabulous question, and we are still in the word E for empower. I could go on for dozens of podcasts, but I'm going to keep moving along. How far will you go? And what will and will you not do for status, love, health, money? And this is a very, very powerful question. One of my mentors asked me years ago. He said to me, there are things that I will and will not do for money, and there's things I will and will not do that will affect my health in a negative way. And I think it is a fantastic question to consider. And to give you a little example, I talk about your 3 highest values, not external values, but inner values, intrinsic values. For me, my health and well-being is my number 1 value. It has been my whole life. Thanks to my parents, I've been in sport since I could barely walk. But for me, I've always said to myself, I will never ever put making money or business or anything or anyone before my health. Every single morning I take care of my health and well-being. I live a normal, balanced life. I am not extreme in any way. And, I never tell people what they should and shouldn't do with their body or their diet unless they're asking for my advice from my personal training years. Everything in moderation is my thing that works for me. But nothing comes in the way. And I've always had this, not rule, but this non-negotiable, I would call it a non-negotiable, that nothing will stand in the way of my health and well-being. There is no point in chasing one area of life like money, and this is where I've seen a lot of people make a mistake, or make a decision. I shouldn't say a mistake because there's no mistakes, but make decisions that will not be in their highest interest for the long term, where they choose the pursuit of a career or money over their health and well-being. So just be careful with that and ask yourself, what will I and won't do for the sake of my love life, my health, my relationship status, and things like that. Only you can make that decision, but I think that is a good one. And so therefore, I make sure everything fits in and around my health and my well-being, because I'm not prepared to pay the price. Okay, I would rather have my health and well-being over anything else, because without it, all the money in the world will not make a difference. So I don't say, how do I have one or the other? My question is, how do I have it all? Because I know with certainty, because I've lived it and I still live it today, that you can have it all. You can have empowerment and balance and be prosperous in the whole 7 areas of life. You do not have to pick one area. You can balance out the rest of them. And that just comes with prioritizing your day and your action steps, and not allowing other people's priorities and action steps to bowl you over. Now let's move on. We've got a couple more that I want to get through. We've done the word live. Now we are into the word now, because this is the framework around this job or career before you quit. And N, of course, stands for never quitting. Never quit. I would say, in all honesty, from my own experience, never quit on any vocation or anything until you are crystal clear on the next move that you want to make. You've answered all the above questions that we've spoken about today in today's podcast and the previous podcast. And if you are new to this, again, welcome. Listen to part 1, because I asked some sensational questions that would help you really make smarter decisions about your future and your family's future until you are super clear. You've stacked the benefits and the drawbacks of quitting your job, your vocation, in all 7 areas, because there are always going to be an equal amount of positives and negatives to taking that next action step. Don't just look for the upsides without seeing the downsides, because there's no such thing. And this is what, as a mentor and a coach, mainly in financial independence, business mastery, but in the 7 areas of life, I am passionate and determined as a mentor not to set people up to feel that they can have just one side of life, because there's no such thing. I've got to ask you the question, is your life just filled with ups and never downs? And I don't think anyone could say that it is, because life is not like that. Life is a perfect balance of ups, downs, positives, negatives, drawbacks and benefits, highs and lows, peace and war within the family. Even within the family, you think about your own family, peace and war. There's always that push and pull, and it is perfect. And so I would say to you, don't beat yourself up just trying to be that one side, positive, happy, because you can control your perceptions and your actions and your decisions, but that is life. And it's just how you see things, how you perceive things, that make the difference. Because every day in your vocation, in your job, your career, your business, you are going to have an equal amount of problems to solve, actions that, take you away from what you're trying to achieve, that you need to think through and sort out and use your intelligence, hopefully not your emotions. And so that's what I'm saying. In your job or career or business, don't just look for the upsides, look for the downsides as well. In that way, you'll be more balanced. You'll definitely have less stress and less prone to beating up on yourself. Now, think about that and put yourself in my shoes. How many times a day did I get angry at myself if I was feeling negative or lost or confused? And I just didn't understand that life was that perfect balance. I used to try and always just be that positive person and think that there was no other side of life. And I would always beat myself up and tell myself I was stupid and there was something wrong with me and all that kind of stuff. I mean, give me a sign if you ladies have done that as well. Beat yourself up harder than you would ever imagine beating up on somebody else or speaking to a child. That used to be myself. And now that I'm very aware that there are 2 sides of life, I'm more understanding and appreciative of just on myself and just being aware and making different choices and making better decisions and taking different actions. Absolutely. All these crying faces, we all do it, don't we, to ourselves, ladies and guys out there. If you're listening out there and you're a guy, I have no doubt you do the same as well. And the great thing is that when you become more aware, and that's what I love talking about empowerment for, you can dissolve these emotions and dissolve these feelings, which in essence end up creating disease, but that's a whole nother podcast. Also, when you become crystal clear, you know where you're going, what you want, what you need to do to empower yourself. You've asked all those questions, you will be able to solve problems so much easier because you'll be ready for them. You've already stacked up the benefits and the drawbacks. So if you stack up the benefits and the drawbacks to this new job, career, or business, when they come to you, you're more aware of them. And so what that means is you'll be able to manage your emotions far easier. And man, when I was young, going through all those different jobs, those different businesses, some days I was a maniac because I was just letting my emotions run ragged, run my life instead of me running my emotions. You won't be as emotionally charged. I've just covered that. And, the fabulous thing is that you'll be more fulfilled, more inspired, and more enthusiastic. Now, fulfillment, inspiration, and enthusiasm is where you want to be because that's more of a balanced person. People just say, oh, I've got this chemical imbalance. I'm so emotional. I'm all over the place. That just comes from lack of clarity and certainty, where you haven't thought through. You're just looking for the positives but not the negatives. You're looking for the benefits but just not the drawbacks. You're not seeing that perfect balance. And that, as again, I'm not saying you as in you, but that's what we do as humans. That was me for most of my life till I really started to understand this through knowledge, through study, through mentors, but more importantly through action. Because here's the thing, my words will not teach. My words, I'm just simply sharing an experience with you, but only your actions will help you see the magnificence in this. And who doesn't want to live with more inspiration and enthusiasm? I mean, wouldn't you love to wake up feeling inspired and enthusiastic and in control of your destiny? And I don't care if it's a job, career, or business. Wouldn't that just be a nicer feeling, where you wake up and you know what you're going to do in the daytime? I'm just looking around here for my diary. I carry my diary everywhere I go, because in my diary I have filled out my most important intentions for every day of the week. My 3 to 7 or 3 or 5 to 7 most inspiring action steps that I am going to take each and every day. I let nothing or nobody get in the way of where I want to go. Now that might sound a bit harsh, but at the end of the day, you've got one life. And I know that none of you are here for a job, career, or business. If you're listening to this podcast, I know with certainty, give me a sign or a thumbs up or a kiss and a bum squeeze, if you are here for you and your family. You are here to fulfill what's highest on your values for you and your family. Less stress, more love, more peace, more harmony for you and your family. And the job, career, or business is the conduit that will allow that. And I know that because, believe me, of all the jobs I've had, at the end of the day, it was the feeling that I would derive from those jobs or businesses that I was searching for. And last thing I want to say on that, never quit, is don't take your old self to new possibilities. That is so profound. Do not take your old self to a new possibility. That if I'd learnt that going through those 33 jobs, I used to beat up on myself and think there was something wrong with me. Literally every 4 to 6 months, I would quit a job. I don't think I've ever been fired in my life, never been sacked. But every 4 to 6 months, always searching for the impossible. I would try and take my old self to a brand new possibility and wonder why I was just never fulfilled. I just didn't have the understanding. And so that is the inspiration I hope you take today. Now, the letter O in the word now for the acronym Live Now. This is the formula, the framework that we use, opportunity. Going through all of those steps that we've spoken about, this podcast, last week's podcast. If you follow the previous steps, you will absolutely notice, because this is how the universal laws work. And people talk about the universal laws so often now, I love it because there are universal laws. But I'm not talking about rah-rah. I'm talking about real stuff. And you start to see different ideas, different people come into your life, different concepts, different opportunities, because the universe will line up with you, who you become, because you have a certain vibration about you, a certain vitality, and people are attracted to that. And so the previous steps, when you become clear, certain about where you're going, what you want to achieve, you're starting to empower yourself with new inspirational knowledge, These ideas come to you, and your RAS, your reticular activating system, is alive, and you're seeing things that you never saw before, and you're feeling confident and more certain because you've got this new knowledge. That's why I say, don't just sit there and hope and wish and pray something new will come along for more money, because it often won't. But with that new knowledge and that new certainty, then all these things come into your life. The universe absolutely will line up for you. And you will come across different. So you look at your old self, and I look at my life, for instance, before I had self-education. You know, I was just one of a pack of dozens and dozens and dozens of people showing up to land that brand new vocation. But then when I started to empower myself, for instance, when I went to night school to study business, I was the one that were getting more and more opportunities open to me. I learnt the craft and the art of sales. I learnt the art and the craft of standing on a stage, speaking in front of thousands of people. To this day, I still study. And in fact, up until today, it's about 23 years now. My husband and I have invested over $500,000 into our self-education, but it started with a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so I could understand the 4 quadrants of financial success back in the year 1997. So it doesn't happen overnight, but it can start with one idea. And then it's who you become that becomes attractive to the marketplace. And if you want to release that multi-millionairess that is inside of you, give me a sign, girls and guys. If you're listening to this podcast, if you want to become a multi-millionaire, a multi-millionairess, you want to release that person, because it will give you the peace and the certainty that you want for you and your family. Then it's who you become. The money won't just show up. You've got to become that attracting person that attracts those opportunities. I can see so many love hearts. It's coming as fast as they are. I love it. Love, love, love it. And it just rolls off the tongue. Multi-millionaires. And why wouldn't you want to be one? And I say to people, I believe this is your duty to become a multi-millionaire if you're a guy, a multi-millionairess if you're a woman, because of what you can do for you, your family, the community, and a much bigger cause. When you get past yourself, then there's so much more you can take care of and give so much more. And that's why I'm so, I think, passionate about speaking about it. Now, let's move on to the final letter in the word now for our acronym Live Now. And I say willing and winning. I've added an extra word there, girls. Winning. Whatever it takes to be a winner. Willing to allow yourself to shine and make this new chapter of your life count. Don't sit there under a mushroom waiting for the sunshine to get onto you, because it can't see you there. Just like a tree, the taller the tree and the branches at the top get all the sunshine, get the growth, while the other ones down here die off. Allow yourself to shine. Release that multi-millionairess that is sitting inside you. And it comes in the form of many ways, not just money, but in many, many forms. Willing to let go of your past disappointments, what we perceive as mistakes, grudges, guilt and shame. There's a lot of talk about guilt and shame out there in the marketplace, but here's what I do know, because I do it in practice and I've studied it for a very long time. It can be released and it can be dissolved and resolved if we choose to. There are perceptions, but the thing is, we've got to be willing to be a winner and release it so that something new can show up. If the cup is full, then more stuff cannot flow in. So let it go. Be willing to do the work and release it. Be willing to let go of that one-side, lopsided life and embrace the perfect order of balance, of support and challenge. Ups and downs, highs and lows, war and peace, positive and negative, and you'll become more balanced internally. And so less emotions will run your life, and you'll be the captain of your ship, and who wants to be in the freaking passenger seat of your life? I know no one in this group does. And if you're listening to this podcast on the outside, who wants to be a passenger? No one. Everybody wants to get behind the wheel of their own life. And this is what this is all about. Willing not to cheat others. Now, here's the thing. If you are in a vocation, job, career, or business that you know after going through all of these questions, all of these things that I have spoken about this podcast and last podcast, if you know in your heart and soul it is still not right for you, then think about not robbing somebody else who would love to slip into your role, who's at that time in their life, or your boss who has put his guts and his nuts on the line to create a business that you're sitting in there, filling a spot, wasting your time, wasting his time, wasting his enterprise money, everything that goes with it. Think about that. Are you sitting in a spot that somebody else would love to sit in? If the answer is yes, do something about it for you, for them, and for your boss, so that everybody's a winner. And that was said to me once, and I was sitting in a job, and another job that I couldn't stand. I'm just not cut out for a job, but I was sitting there and I was too frightened to leave, and I was thinking all about myself. And then someone said, have you considered the time, the energy, and the money that your boss has put into you to try and train you into something that you do not like, you're not inspired by, you don't feel enthusiastic, you pretend you're working when you're not? And it really hit me that there are a bunch of other people who would love to have had that job, and I just, I left, and I realized that, I really needed to make some changes in here and in here so that I could get out there and do the work that I'm meant to be doing, which is this stuff that I love to do here every day. So, final words that I want to share this morning on this empowering podcast. I hope it's been empowering for you. I hope you've written down copious amounts of notes. I know it's different than a lot of other podcasts where a lot of people chat with each other and interview each other, but I want to really share the message, share the knowledge, share the wisdom, and help you grow in the fastest way that I know how. And by sharing my insights from my own experiences and my own learnings, that I hope you take the action, because as I said, my words won't teach, but the actions will. But here are the final words on this podcast I want to share. When it's the right time to quit your job, career, or business, you will know. When you become grateful and align your values with your chosen field of work. So thinking about your values, you will know when it's the right time to move on. You align your work with your values. That is what is most fulfilling and most rewarding. When you can turn your vocation into your vacation, the rewards are endless. One of my mentors says that all the time. Me, for instance, I am sitting on a boat, which is called Live Now, which is the framework of what I speak about every week on my podcast. I'm sitting in beautiful Mooloolaba on the east coast of Australia. This is our 5th week of cruising up and down, headed towards the Whitsunday Islands, or the Great Barrier Reef, I should say, living the dream that I had since I was a child. Now, I'm not sharing this to brag, but here I am doing my podcast each and every week, because this was a dream of mine, to do the work I love to do, inspiring and teaching and empowering others to become financially independent, to master themselves and their business anywhere in the world. And this is what I love to do. So the message for you is, how can you turn your vocation into your vacation? That is the true purpose of life and what will bring you most meaning. More presence, more certainty, more gratitude, more enthusiasm, more love, inspiration, and vitality. So my final message, go live your best life. That wraps up our podcast for this week, ladies and guys. If you're listening to this, and if you're brand new, again, thank you for joining us on the Gday Gorgeous podcast. Ladies, I hope you enjoyed this and that you took copious amounts of notes in your journal. Filled your journal. Leave me some feedback today. Leave me some comments. Did I say anything that you want to question? Did anything not make sense for you? I'll be jumping on after here to my live group, answering these questions, and I hope I've given you plenty of food for thought before you go quitting your job, career, or business. Okay, gorgeous people, that wraps up this week's empowering podcast. Until next week, again, I appreciate you tuning in to the Gday Gorgeous podcast that empowers women for financial independence and business success. And if you liked this episode and gleaned amazing value from it, I would be super grateful if you would just take 30 seconds and leave me a review and pay this forward by sharing this with other people you know that will truly benefit from the gold that I share based on my experience and life journey. Your friends, your family, and others, even people you work with. Lastly, again, to find out more about my Gday Gorgeous Select Coaching for Women, please visit my website, gdaygorgeous.com/select, and you can see all the things we get up to and amazing stories from other women who are living the life of their dreams. Okay, gorgeous, I'll catch you next week on the podcast. Bye for now.